They say the old monastery on Mount Orinth still echoes with music, though no one has sung there for 100 years. When the wind crawls through the broken windows, it carries the sound of a choir, soft, beautiful, and wrong. Locals say those voices belong to the monks who froze to death during the Great Winter, still singing their final hymn as the world fell silent. But if you stand close enough to the chapel doors on a moonless night, you might hear them whisper your name.
The night air was thick and heavy as Lena Harper approached the rusted gates of the Hollow Carnival. Above her, the blood moon hung low and ominous, casting an unsettling crimson glow across the landscape. The carnival had been abandoned for years, its once vibrant colors now faded and peeling, its laughter long silenced. Yet tonight, as if stirred by some ancient rhythm, the fairground began to pulse with a strange life. Lena's footsteps echoed softly on cracked pavement as she pushed open the iron gates, their hinges groaning in protest. Her breath came in shallow bursts, a mixture of cold air and nervous anticipation. Memories fluttered in her mind like fragile moths, fragmented images of a joyful childhood, now shadowed by loss and unanswered questions. She had grown up just beyond the carnival's perimeter, the faded lights and rusting rides a constant presence in her peripheral vision. But it was the legends whispered in hushed tones by locals that had finally drawn her here tonight. A flicker of light sputtered on the carousel to her left, the chipped horses frozen in mid-gallop suddenly creaking to life. The collierpip's haunting melody began, warped and distorted, as if played through a broken speaker. The sound was both enchanting and unnerving, a siren song beckoning her deeper into the midway. Lena shivered but stepped forward, compelled by an irresistible blend of curiosity and dread. Around her, the carnival seemed to breathe. The faded banners fluttered despite the stillness of the night air, and distant laughter thin and ghostly trickled through the shadows. It was laughter that belonged to no one and everyone, a chorus of lost souls caught between past and present. Lena's sharp eyes scanned the scene, drinking in the details, the peeling posters of faded acts, the rusted carousel poles, the broken ticket booth where decades-old leaflets lay scattered like forgotten promises. Her fingers brushed the poster edges, worn and brittle, and a pang of sorrow tightened in her chest. The carnival was more than a place. It was a repository of memories, of hopes and horrors intertwined. She had heard the stories, the blood moon's curse, the carnival's reawakening every cycle, the disappearances that no one dared explain. Yet standing here now, beneath the eerie glow, those tales felt both distant and immediate, like a warning whispered just for her. A sudden creak from the Ferris wheel sent a shiver down her spine. The colossal wheel began to turn slowly, its shadow stretching and twisting across the ground. Lena's heart quickened. The fairground was no longer silent or still. It was alive, and it was watching. She paused, taking in the scene around her. The scent of damp wood mixed with the faint trace of popcorn and cotton candy from yesteryears, a cruel echo of innocence lost. The air was cool but carried an electric charge, as if the carnival itself throbbed with anticipation. It was a spectacle of nostalgia, yes, but one tinged with menace. Lena's resolve hardened. She had come seeking answers. To understand what had happened to her brother all those years ago, to confront the shadows that had haunted her since childhood. The carnival might be abandoned, but it was anything but lifeless. From the shadows beyond the carousel, a flicker of movement caught her eye. She turned sharply, heart pounding, but saw only the twisting mist that clung to the ground like spectral fingers. A faint smile seemed to drift on the wind, an invitation and a threat. The Hollow Carnival had awakened, and tonight, Lena was part of its story. With a deep breath, she stepped forward into the fading light, the echoes of laughter and music growing louder, beckoning her into a world where nostalgia masked a heartbeat of pure terror. The blood moon hung high, its red light bathing the midway in a sinister glow, and as the first ride spun to life, Lena knew there was no turning back. The carnival's secrets were waiting hidden in shadows, whispered in the wind, and fueled by the screams of those who dared enter. Tonight, the Hollow Carnival was reborn. Tonight, the terror would begin anew. The night air was thick with a damp chill as Lena stepped onto the cracked pavement of the Hollow Carnival's midway. The blood moon hung low, casting an eerie red glow over the faded banners that fluttered listlessly in the cold wind. The carnival, long abandoned and whispered about in hushed tones, was alive once more, but not with the warmth of joy. Instead, it breathed a rotten breath of nostalgia and menace. Lena's footsteps echoed softly, swallowed quickly by the strange sounds that rose around her, a distant, disjointed laughter, the creak of rusted rides awakening from slumber, and the faint fluttering of tattered flags. It was a symphony both familiar and grotesquely altered, a carnival's heartbeat throbbing with the pulse of something not quite human. She paused before the entrance to what had once been the House of Mirrors, its peeling paint and shattered glass glinting faintly under the blood-red moonlight. Tentatively, she pushed open the warped wooden door, the hinges groaning in protest. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with a scent like forgotten memories mixed with decay. The mirrors stretched endlessly, their surfaces cracked and distorted. Lena caught her reflection in one, a twisted visage that seemed to sneer back at her, eyes darkened and stretched unnaturally wide. Whispers curled in the shadows. Just beyond comprehension, a susurrus of voices carried on a cold breeze that seemed to rise from nowhere. She moved deeper, every step met with shifting reflections that warped her image into grotesque parodies of herself. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow slipping behind a fractured pane. Her breath hitched as she realized she was not alone. Emerging from the gloom, figures coalesced, translucent shapes of people frozen in time, caught between sorrow and fear. Their eyes, hollow and mournful, locked onto Lena's with an unsettling intensity. Silent, they reached toward her with trembling hands, gestures pleading yet powerless. Lena's heart pounded, a tight knot of empathy and terror binding her to these lost souls. She saw in them reflections of her own haunted past, the memories of her missing brother tangled in the carnival's dark fabric. A sudden chill swept through the midway as a low, menacing presence seemed to watch her from the shadows. The carnival was alive, its malevolent will pulsing beneath the faded paint and rusted steel. Lena felt its gaze, a weight pressing down, urging her to turn back, to flee the nightmare unfolding around her. But she would not. Not yet. With a deep breath, Lena stepped forward, her eyes sharp despite the tremor in her hands. The whispers grew louder, voices intertwining with the carnival's twisted melody. Every shadow held a secret, every laugh a warning. As she wandered through the spectral midway, the rides groaned to life around her, the Ferris wheel turning with a slow, ominous creak. The carousel's painted horses frozen mid-gallop, their eyes glinting with unnatural light. Lena's senses sharpened, attuned to every flicker of movement and murmur of sound. Between the distant shrieks and hollow laughter, she caught glimpses of other figures, lost visitors like herself, trapped in the carnival's grip, their faces etched with despair and resignation. Some reached out in silent pleas. Others turned away, swallowed by the darkness. The unseen presence tightened its hold, the air growing thick with menace. Lena's skin prickled as if the carnival itself breathed around her, alive and hungry. She was no longer just a visitor. She was a participant in its macabre spectacle. Despite the growing fear, a spark of determination blazed within her. The carnival's secrets would not remain buried in its shadows. She would uncover the truth about the rides, the trapped souls, and the sinister force that fed on terror itself. Yet as the laughter swelled and the lights flickered with sickly hues, Lena could not shake the feeling that she was being watched, not just by the carnival, but by something far older and far more dangerous. The blood moon hung low and heavy in the sky, casting its eerie crimson glow over the abandoned fairground. Lena Harper stepped cautiously beneath the flickering canopy of carnival lights, their feeble gleam struggling against the enveloping darkness. The air was thick with the scent of decay and forgotten dreams. Stale popcorn mingled with the faint, metallic tang of rusted metal. Somewhere in the distance, a carousel creaked, its melody warped and off-key, like a lullaby twisted by time and neglect. Lena's breath caught as the sound of laughter drifted around her, not joyous but hollow, as if the carnival itself were breathing in her presence. Memories surfaced, unbidden summer days spent chasing her brother among the stalls, his laughter echoing against the bright colors and spinning rides. But those were years ago, before the blood moon had stolen him away, leaving behind only whispers and a void that had never healed. Her footsteps crunched on the cracked asphalt, each step stirring a fragile thread of hope and dread. She paused, eyes drawn to a shattered mirror propped against a rusted game booth. The glass, spider-webbed with fractures, reflected her face, pale, determined, haunted. But behind her, a flicker, the fleeting image of a boy, his eyes wide with fear, his small hand reaching out as if begging her to remember. Lena spun around, heart racing, but the space behind her was empty save for the slow sway of tattered banners. "It's just your mind playing tricks," she whispered, though the chill settling in her bones said otherwise. As she ventured deeper into the carnival's heart, the whispers grew louder, soft voices weaving through the night air, telling stories half remembered, warnings wrapped in nostalgia. Figures flickered at the edge of her vision, trapped souls caught between memory and nightmare, their faces etched with sorrow and longing. Lena's pulse quickened. She was no longer a mere visitor but a part of the carnival's story, entwined with the fate of those who had vanished before. Her gaze settled on the carousel once more. The paint was chipped and faded, the horses frozen mid-gallop, their eyes dull and lifeless. From the music box came a mournful tune, each off-key note striking a chord deep within her. Lena reached out, fingertips brushing the cold wood, and images flooded her mind, her brother's laughter, his wide smile, the night the carnival claimed him. The memories were sharp and painful, but with them came clarity. The carnival fed on fear and sorrow, thriving on the terror it sowed. Determination flared within her. She would uncover the carnival's secrets. She would find the truth behind her brother's disappearance. And she would not let the Hollow Carnival claim her, as it had so many others. But as the shadows lengthened and the blood moon climbed higher, Lena knew the carnival was watching, waiting. Somewhere in its depths, the ringmaster's gaze fell upon her, cold, calculating, relentless. The night stretched onward, a twisted tapestry of light and shadow, memory and nightmare. The blood moon hung low and heavy in the sky, its crimson light spilling over the abandoned fairground like a sinister blessing. Lena Harper stood at the threshold, the tattered gates yawning open as if exhaling a breath held for decades. The stale scent of rusted metal and faded paint mingled with the faint, almost imperceptible sound of carnival music, a warped melody that twisted through the night air. She tightened her grip on the photograph in her hand, the edges worn smooth by years of desperate clinging. This was the moment she had feared and longed for in equal measure. The midway stretched before her, a ghostly tableau of faded grandeur. Ferris wheels creaked in the distance, their skeletal frames silhouetted against the red moonlight. The carousel, once a bright beacon of childhood joy, now stood in eerie silence, its painted horses frozen mid-gallop, eyes empty and unseeing. But then, as if stirred by her presence, the carousel's lights flickered, casting an intermittent glow that danced like dying embers. A sudden chill swept over Lena, raising goosebumps along her arms. The laughter that had teased her ears earlier now fell silent, replaced by a heavy stillness. From the mist that curled like smoke between the tents and booths, a figure emerged, tall, gaunt and impossibly thin, his movements slow and deliberate. The tattered red coat fluttered around him, stained with what looked like dried blood, and atop his head sat a weathered top hat, tilted at a rakish angle. His face was hidden behind a cracked porcelain mask, the fractured surface catching the moonlight and reflecting a cold, lifeless gaze. Lena's breath hitched. She had heard the stories, whispered in hushed tones by those who dared speak of the Hollow Carnival, but nothing prepared her for the presence of the ringmaster himself. He was more than a man. He was a spectre born from the carnival's darkest nightmares, a puppet master weaving fear into the very fabric of this cursed place. The ringmaster's eyes, or rather, the hollow voids behind the mask, seemed to bore into her, weighing her soul with an unseen scale. The carnival around them shuddered to life. The carousel creaked and groaned, horses slowly beginning their endless circuit, their wooden limbs emitting an unsettling clatter that echoed like bones in the night. The Ferris wheel twitched as if awakening from a long slumber, its spokes creaking and groaning under the strain. A low, haunting melody seeped from the carousel's calliope, warped and broken but undeniably seductive. It lured Lena forward, promising secrets and closure, but beneath its charm lay a razor's edge of menace. Ghostly whispers rose from the shadows, swirling around her like a restless wind. They were voices of the trapped souls caught in the carnival's web, their despair woven into the fabric of the rides. The ringmaster's voice slithered through the air, smooth and cold as ice. "Welcome back, child of sorrow. The carnival remembers you. The blood moon calls us all home." His words twisted around her heart, dredging memories of her lost brother, of nights spent haunted by absence and unanswered questions. Lena's eyes burned with a fierce light. She would not be another victim, another scream feeding the carnival's insatiable hunger. She stepped forward, the photograph clenched tightly in her palm. "I'm not afraid of you," she whispered, voice trembling but resolute. The ringmaster's laugh was a hollow echo, devoid of warmth. "Fear is the currency of this place, and you have a debt to pay." With a gesture, the carnival shifted. Tents stretched and warped, shadows lengthened, and the very ground seemed to pulse beneath her feet. Yet amidst the suffocating dread, Lena's resolve hardened. She would uncover the carnival's secrets, challenge the darkness, and find a way to free the trapped souls, including her brothers. The ringmaster might cast a long shadow, but she was determined to be the light that shattered it. As the music swelled and the rides creaked into motion, the carnival whispered promises both terrible and tantalizing. Lena took a deep breath, stepping fully into the nightmare that was the Hollow Carnival, where spectacle masked horror and every smile hid a scream. The night hung heavy with an eerie stillness, broken only by the distant, hollow laughter that seemed to echo from the very shadows themselves. Lena moved cautiously through the midway, her footsteps muffled by the thick layer of dust and debris scattered across the cracked pavement. The faint flicker of dying bulbs cast long, trembling shadows that danced like restless spirits along the skeletal remains of once vibrant stalls and rides. Her heart thudded unevenly, as much from the cold grip of fear as from the bittersweet notes of nostalgia that the fairground stirred deep within her. Ahead, a faint light flickered persistently from a dilapidated food stall, its paint peeling and faded, the sign hanging crookedly with the words snacks and sweets barely legible beneath layers of grime. The scent of stale popcorn, mixed with the faint tang of rust and decay, drifted through the air. Lena's eyes narrowed, her resolve sharpening as she approached. She wasn't alone. Leaning against the counter was a man, mid-30s by the look of his weathered face, his scruffy beard catching the flickering light, as he stared into the distance with sharp, searching eyes. His clothes were threadbare and stained, but there was a toughness in his posture that spoke of survival against long odds. He noticed Lena immediately, his gaze flicking to her with a mixture of suspicion and guarded hope. "You're not from around here," he said gruffly, voice low and rough like gravel. Lena met his gaze steadily. "Neither are you." A slow, cynical smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Eddie Marlowe, former carnival worker, until this place swallowed me whole." She hesitated but then offered her name, Lena Harper. "I'm looking for answers." Eddie's eyes flickered with something unreadable. "Answers come with a price here. You sure you want to pay it?" The tension between them was palpable, a thin line stretched tight by fear and unspoken desperation. Yet there was an unspoken understanding they were both prisoners of this haunted place, bound by the same sinister threads. Eddie pushed off the counter, his movements deliberate but wary. "Follow me," he urged, gesturing toward the carousel, its broken horses frozen mid-gallop beneath the blood-red moon. The creaking of the neglected ride seemed to breathe with a life of its own, a slow, mournful lament that echoed the carnival's dark heartbeat. As they walked, Eddie's voice lowered to a conspiratorial whisper. "This place isn't just old rust and faded paint. It's alive, feeds on fear, on screams." Lena's breath caught. Screams. Every ride, every game, every flickering light, it's powered by the terror of those trapped here. Their screams fuel the carnival's cursed soul. She swallowed hard, the cold realization settling over her like a shroud. The laughter she'd heard wasn't joy, it was a lure, a siren song pulling the unwary into a nightmare. The shadows deepened as they moved further into the midway, twisting unnaturally, as if reaching for them with spectral fingers. Lena's skin prickled with the sensation of unseen eyes tracking their every step. The carnival was watching, waiting. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the heavy silence, slicing through the night air and sending a shudder through Lena's spine. Eddie's grip tightened on her arm. No time to hesitate, we moved now. Together, they sprinted toward the source of the scream, the carnival's malevolent energy thickening around them. The fragile bond between them solidified in the face of shared danger, a reluctant alliance forged in the crucible of fear. As they disappeared into the swirling shadows, Lena's mind raced with questions. Could she trust this man who had survived the carnival's grasp? And more importantly, could they unravel the secrets that bound them both before the night claimed them forever? The blood moon cast its ominous glow overhead, bathing the Hollow Carnival in its sinister light. The night air hung thick with a sinister chill as Lena and Eddie approached the carousel. Its once bright colors dulled to a ghostly pallor beneath the blood moon's eerie light. The faded horses, carved with exquisite detail yet frozen mid-gallop, seemed to watch them with vacant eyes, their chip paint whispering forgotten stories of joy long since drained away. The music box tune that accompanied the carousel's stillness was warped and distorted, each note twisting into a warped echo that set Lena's nerves on edge. "This place. It's like a wound in the night," Eddie murmured, his voice low and rough, eyes scanning the shadows that clung to the carousel's edges. You can almost hear the screams beneath the music. Lena swallowed hard, her gaze fixed on one horse, in particular a white mare. Its mane curled in delicate waves, its glass eye cracked but shimmering as if alive. The silence was shattered suddenly by a piercing scream that cut through the carnival's stagnant air, a sound so raw and filled with panic that Lena's heart lurched. The carousel jolted violently, springs creaking as the platform lurched into motion. The horses jerked to life, their movements stilted and unnatural, like marionettes pulled by invisible strings. Their painted eyes seemed to darken, gleaming with a hunger that made Lena's skin crawl. "It feeds on fear," Eddie said grimly, stepping closer. The screams, they were the fuel. Every terrified cry, every desperate plea, it all pours energy into this cursed place. He glanced around nervously, as if expecting the carnival itself to lash out. This carousel, it's the heart of it. Lena's breath hitched as the music warped into a nightmarish cacophony, each note twisting into a shriek that echoed inside her skull. She reached out, gripping the mane of the horse tightly, the wood surprisingly warm beneath her fingers. The carousel spun faster, the edges of her vision blurring, reality folding in on itself. "We have to find a way to stop this," she whispered, panic rising but determination hardening. "If the rides keep feeding, it'll never end." Eddie nodded, his face set in grim lines. "First we survive the night, then we fight back." The carousel's speed increased, the horses' faces contorted in silent screams, their bodies twisting grotesquely as Lena felt the terror crawling beneath her skin. But somewhere deep inside, a spark of courage flared. She would not become another scream swallowed by the Hollow Carnival. As the ride spun wildly, Lena closed her eyes, bracing against the onslaught of fear, ready to face whatever horrors lay ahead. The carnival's sinister symphony swelled around them, a terrifying reminder that the night was far from over. And as the carousel roared, the carnival whispered its deadly promise once more. Laughter beguiles, but the screams sustain. The carousel's relentless motion hammered against Lena's senses, a dizzying blur of twisted horses and warped melodies. Her grip remained firm, but the terror clawed at her, threatening to unmoor her from reality. Eddie's voice cut through the chaos, steady and sharp. "Look!" He pointed towards the central mechanism, a grotesque contraption of pulleys and gears, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. Trapped within it were faint, shadowy silhouettes, faces twisted in eternal screams, their cries feeding the infernal machine. Lena's throat tightened. Trapped, she breathed, horror washing over her, like prisoners in a nightmare. Eddie shook his head, more like fuel. The carnival's heart beats on their agony. The carousel began to slow, the music fading into a sinister whisper as the horses froze once more. Lena slid off her mount, knees shaking but spirit unbroken. "We can't let this happen to anyone else," she said, eyes blazing with newfound resolve. Eddie gave a tired nod. "Then we find a way to break the cycle." But as they stepped away, the shadows lengthened, and a cold, mocking laugh echoed from the darkness. The ringmaster's presence was near, his spectral eyes watching, waiting. The Hollow Carnival was alive and it hungered. The night was far from over.